The recording is now in progress. Go ahead, Angela.
Okay, well, welcome to the Monday CALPADS office hours for post redesign. If you were here on Friday afternoon, I don't have any extra updates for you. So just to recap, we had a deployment go in at noon on Thursday. The fixes are listed in the known issues. Let me share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So in the footer of CALPADS, and we have been updating it because we do have some new known bugs, but the ones that have the 519 date are things that got fixed on Thursday. And then scroll down a little bit and the newer items are at the top here, newer defects that were discovered since then. We do have a tentative deployment on this Wednesday, and I have a list I could share with you. Again, it's tentative, so I'm not going to be sending this out to anybody because it's just these are potential some fixes we can see coming in on Wednesday, and I'll just leave that up so you guys can read that. Okay, I'm going to start taking some questions now.
All right, you want me to go ahead?
Oh yeah, that's what you're reading today. Thanks, Gary.
Oh,
I almost jumped into it. It's just habit now.
That's what you did on Friday because Paul was going to read them on Friday.
After I hung up, I was like, oh yeah, Paul was supposed to do that.
Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and read the questions today. So how this works is we ask you to type your questions into the chat box and we'll read through them. And if you would, especially if you know you're going to ask more than one question, if you would number your questions, that way we can go through all the question ones. First, give everyone a chance. Usually there's quite a few people on the call, so this way it gives everyone a chance to read their, to get a question in at least. And most of the times we do have time to go back and get the Q2s, and sometimes people have 3 or 4 questions. Once in a while we don't make it, so we'll cut off question ones at 4 o'clock, and we will continue to get through as many questions as we can after that. But also with the questions, if you've already put in a service ticket for the question, we ask that you not repeat it here and just continue working with your service desk agent. So I am going to go ahead and get started. And the first question is from Dominic. Regarding SPED, and LAA received a SPED 0538 for an amendment when they were submitting 2 amendments for the same student in the same report from CSIS. From my understanding of the validation process, the 2 transactions passed the first validation, but then the system checked the amendment dates and determined one would flag the 538 meeting date between existing dates. Would LEAs need to submit multiple amendments for one student in separate reports to avoid this validation? Is there a way for the report to validate and post transactions in a meeting or amendment date chronological order so as to avoid this issue altogether? Oh, that is a good question.
Yeah, really good question. And I can't remember off the top of my head, Martha, if the Flash that CDE is working on talks about that for the SPED. I know it mentions it for SENR, you have to split them up.
I don't recall, Angela. I think we spent most of our time on the SCNR file, so I don't know if we give an example of the SPED in that.
It would fit the mold, right, of the way the system.
Yes, but these are both ads, aren't these both ads though? From my understanding, the 2 transaction passed the first validation, and then the system checked the amendment dates and determined when would be a 538. So I don't know. They're submitting 2 amendments for the same student. So to me, that's 2 ads, right?
Yeah.
So what we were writing up is when you had an add and a delete that had to be separated, but not 2 ads.
Or even.
It's like an exit and a enrollment.
Those are both ads, right? So
yeah.
And we do have a ticket in there, Dominic. I don't know if that's from you or if you're from Capistrano. We just haven't got to it yet. We'll respond. If not, if you could send in a separate ticket and we'll get clarification on that for you.
We do have a known issue on the 538.
So
it could be related.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could be related to that. So it makes it hard to test it, right?
Yeah,
yes.
but I get where you're going with this, Angela and Dominic, about, we are trying to get a communication out about just transaction processing, and it behaves differently now in the redesign. And so we'll get to the bottom of it one way or the other, and having a ticket is great.
Next question is from Karen. Just so I'm clear with my communication with my super, parent ed level will need to be populated for both guardians if there are 2 in our CSIS. If a field goes up for guardian 2 and is blank, the file will fail, correct?
Yes, because there's a validation that says if you give us parent guardian number 2, then there's a conditional statement says that you must also give us their parent ed level. So either you don't give us that parent, so you don't have to give us the parent ed level, or if you give us the parent, then you have to say, if you don't have the parent ed level, you have to say decline to state. So one or the other.
Okay, and then she says, we will be sending out some sort of survey for our existing students' families to get answers for parent 2. But in the meantime, should we populate that empty field with 15 unknown or just wait? Sorry if this is a repeat question.
Is 15 a possibility?
That's decline to state.
Yeah, it's not unknown, which is a difference, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an impact to adding decline to state, because that could impact whether or not we determine if that student is economically disadvantaged. So Karen, it's a hard one for us to tell you to do one way or the other. And I get that your vendor is pulling in, because you have 2 guardians or parents, it's pulling it in even though you didn't get the parent ed level for the both of them. So I don't know if working with your vendor, if life would be easier that you only pull in the first one and don't pull in the second one for the time being until you get that all updated. So that may be an option to check with your SIS vendor.
Okay, from Brenna, good afternoon. When is the next update and what known issues will be included in that fix?
I think I went over that at the
Yeah.
top of the call, so hopefully that answered your question, Brenna.
But when the next update, we are typically doing them on Wednesday evenings. Yes, Angela?
Typically, yes, although I just got a message. Something's happening later this evening, but I don't think it'll be client facing. That sounds like they're doing some back end work tonight.
From Charlene, when both parents, guardians have non-high school grad ed level, the student is considered SED, socioeconomically disadvantaged. Suppose one parent declines to state with only the other parent not a high school graduate. Does it automatically disqualify a student from SED? I believe that answer to that is yes.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say disqualified, we consider with a decline to state, we can't make the determination, right?
Right.
We need both parents to have a value other than decline to state.
Or we can count the student SED with only one non-high school graduate parent.
Nope.
Yeah.
Got to have both.
Okay, from Maria, I requested an SSID for a student that had no matches. After the new SSID was created, I noticed the student was now a mid. The student had and still has an open enrollment in another district and now in ours. I decided to test the system and I went ahead and requested a SSID for the same student, but again, no matches despite the student having 2 enrollments at CALPADS. Is the SSID match process not showing students with open enrollments?
This is that tricky one, Angela, huh?
I thought most of these were resolved. So Maria, I would like to take a closer look at that. If you could put in a ticket, this is Angela, ask for me, include your job ID and the student's local ID, and I'll see if I could troubleshoot that for you, because what you're describing is not expected behavior.
From Swanzetta, do we still have issues with pulling ODSs into the CIS?
Yes,
There was some errors.
Yeah, definitely the CELA, and we had a bug also on retired IDs showing up in the SCNR ODS, and we expanded that one today. So now at least known issue we have is SIMF, CELA, and Center all have retired SSIDs. The CELA I'm more concerned about. I've mentioned before that it's picking the wrong record. It's not necessarily picking the one with the most recent effective date, and so those. When that gets fixed, I think you're probably safer to use the CELA ODS.
Okay, from Sabrina, we have a lot of GER 005s. LA does not have ownership of the student enrollment to make the update. Is there a workaround to post the file?
Be a little more specific, because that error it crosses file types, and we do have a couple bugs on, I want to say SIMF. That one's fixed. Okay.
So usually there's no workaround because it's triggering incorrectly, right? How do you fake the system to say, no, I really am the owner? I don't think we have workarounds.
Student program, Cella's
Cella.
coming. Well, that one's probably in actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I just haven't updated it because I don't trust it. PTVSTS is the other one. So spring, there's student program, Cella, potentially, and PSTS.
oh yeah, that's the one I just
them.
logged Friday. Next question is from Chuck. When will we be able to submit SPRG records? That probably has to do with the issue with the duplicates.
And I thought I saw it on your list of being released, Angela.
Sure hope so. Couple Cellas.
It's right there. Oh,
Excellent. Highlighted.
no, I was thinking it was further up, but it's not the
Is it
membership program code.
6025?
No, there's another one besides that. That had the education service year, remember?
Right.
And I was thinking that program membership code, but that's not it. So part of it's going to get fixed, that membership program code, right? That caused problems, the SPRG 6025. It's unknown, Chuck, when you will be able to submit. Certainly not after Wednesday, because the one that we're waiting on, do you know what the PM is for the one that we're waiting on?
6105.
That's it. I couldn't think of it until she said the number, and then I knew exactly what it was.
Which one?
6105. Oh, you got a 5.
Yeah.
61.
Got the lights off in my house because
There it is.
my eyeballs hurt.
That's the one that's occurring because the education service academic year is populated in all the program records. And if you're uploading, and it's not required for all of them, it's only required for the program code 122. So when you're uploading a SPRG file with, it won't have that field populated. So it's adding a duplicate record, one with and one without, since it's already there. So hopefully once they fix that, then the problem will be solved.
That's not the GER 5 though, right?
No.
You don't get a validation error on it.
No. Okay, from Dominic. Oh, I haven't submitted a ticket, but I will. Okay, thank you. From BT, we have 5 siblings that we've created in SSID on May 4th, 2022. 3 came in and was able to take the initial assessment. However, there are 2 that we're still waiting for the SSID in order to test the students who have the TBD status. Do you know when this will be fixed? We're getting very close to the 30 days.
Do we have anybody from CDE that's joined the call yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Brandy's back.
Brandy, welcome back,
Brandy.
Brandy.
Hello. Hola. So just remember that if the issue is that you've created the SSID and you've obtained the SSID in CalPADS, but it's still not showing up in TOMS, just remember that those files in TOMS are only getting processed twice a week. Okay, so it depends on when you made the update in CalPADS. And my brain still isn't quite caught up, guys. So, but I believe depending on when you submit it, either it'll be in on Thursday or Mondays, I believe, depending on that's when they actually process the files. So it just depends on when you made the update and the record posted in CalPADS.
So I think there might be something going on, Brandy. We sent a bunch of tickets up this morning to your CDE level 2 box about the TBD records missing.
Yeah, the TBD is an issue apparently, and I don't have the full scoop on that yet. I know that Shana says that there is an issue with the TBD record, so I will find out what that is. I don't know what it is yet, though. Sorry.
But it's interesting. They had 5 siblings and only 2 of them are still not with SSID for testing.
From what I understand, there were students with erroneous TBD statuses, though. So these are kids that looked like they needed to test, but they were not eligible to test. So from what I read initially, so I don't know that it's necessarily this issue, but again, if you, like I said, I don't know if that's the specific issue.
Yeah, so BT, send in a ticket with the 2 SSIDs that haven't been able to test yet, and then we can determine what problem it fits into.
Next question is from Angela. So it should be okay to import the SPRG ODS extract into our CIS?
No,
I don't think so, because the ODS extract does not have that field populated, I don't believe.
Also missing the 2 delimiters at the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can we go back to Charlene? Skipped her.
Oh, sure did. Charlene says she has the same issue that Maria is having. Request SSID does not give a good as search as student data.
I would try a couple things before you put in a ticket on the student data in online maintenance. Trying to get there.
Okay.
So on the student demographic tab, you have student lookup or request SSID. The student lookup is a straight database lookup, and you don't need a whole lot of info in there. I think you can just do first and last, and it'll find it. We found Buffy. Whereas the request SSID does the what kind of like legacy CalPADS did of that matching logic. So try both, and then if you still can't find it, let us know, and we'll see what's going on.
Okay, Wendy has a question. She joined late. When will EOY be opening? And we didn't mention that at the beginning, so.
It's because I'm suppressing that in my brain. It's not happening. No, it's happening on Thursday, and I don't know if that means Thursday night that it's going to start running. So you'd come in on Friday and have EOY certification reports.
My thought was Thursday morning, but it's in the message, right? We got a listserv message that went out last week that says we are opening EOY on Thursday, May 26th.
Dominic says, welcome back, Brandy.
Thank you. So,
go ahead.
Angela, BT basically says that the record's not in CalPADS yet, so it's not that issue. So the SSID isn't showing up in CalPADS. So that sounds like something different.
Yeah, it's not that they don't have a TBD. They don't even have an SSID yet.
They do. CalPADS may be hiding it from you.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to do a ticket for me, I'll investigate for you. I need the job ID and the local IDs that are impacted.
Okay, Eva says, we've submitted files of 3 students who have become SPED students from CSIS to CalPADS on 5/18. She
Keep
got
going.
cut off. Oh, okay, she resubmitted it. We submitted files of 3 students who have become SPED students from CSIS to CalPADS on 5/18. The SPED status of these students are Y in TOMS, but one student's for testing status is still N. Is this an issue with CalPADS?
So if in TOMS it shows that the CalPADS status is yes, but the testing status in TOMS is no, that's an issue in TOMS. That's not a CalPADS issue. So contact CalTAC.
Kip says, I know you were thinking of not meeting on Friday at 3 p.m., but since end of the year is open on Thursday and Monday as a holiday, we might need you on Friday.
Yes, our plan is to have office hours on Friday.
Really?
Really?
Yes.
There's nobody going to be
We're
here,
going to be
Martha.
short-staffed.
Half the analysts are on.
What? No, I'm not doing it by myself. Just FYI.
I will be
Payback.
here.
Payback,
I will
Brandy.
be here. I will be present. Me and you, Brandy.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Martha.
And we're at the end of the questions, guys, and I didn't have any Q2s yet.
That's why I think we were thinking we would not have it, but we'll be there in case you guys show up. But if you take off for an early 3-day weekend, we don't blame you. You're all deserving of a break.
Something tells me it's going to be a really small or short meeting.
I think so too.
We had fun on Friday since you guys were away.
Did you?
We had a little dance therapy party before we got started.
Nice. Oh my gosh. What? Christina? Did they told you to contact CalPADS? Okay. So if the CalPADS indicator says SPED, yes, but the testing indicator is no, that cannot be a CalPADS issue. Just go ahead and either way, send in a ticket, Eva, with the SSID, and I'll see what I can find in the Tom's export and what I can see in Tom's.
So I think, Brandy, we've had a couple of those tickets where the indicator's not showing up. I mean, it's in CalPads, but you don't see the same results in Tom's. So
yeah, and I know I've handled a couple of them today. So yeah, keep those coming. I do know also, just in case any of you encounter this issue, currently there are some scenarios where a student is showing up as SPED in Tom's, but has actually exited the special education program. And we know that this was an issue because the kids are showing up as, being eligible for designated supports and accommodations in Tom's. And a lot of these kids have exited special education. Right now, we don't have a fix for this because it's an issue with the logic in the Tom's export. So this is less problematic than a student who actually needs those designated supports and accommodations, but can't get them because their SPED indicators no. But generally, this happens when a student attends District A and then has SPED records at District A, then leaves and goes to District B, and then exits the SPED program at District B, and then goes back to District A. Okay, so when they go back to District A, the Tom's export is looking for any SPED records at that LEA. And Alex, I think you sent me one of these tickets today. So it's looking for any SPED records at the LEA in which the students enrolled that meet specific criteria. And in this case, it's looking back at those old records and it's identifying the students as SPED. And so we initially were going to try and fix this, held off because we were going to do the Sped redesign in the fall. And now we're not doing that anymore. So now we have to figure out how to fix it, because I know it's going to be a headache for some of you.
BT says, sorry, who do I need to send the ticket to for those missing SSIDs? May I have the email address?
Angela.
I've been chatting with them directly.
Oh, okay.
So I got it taken care of.
Okay. Charlene has a question too, and I'm going to go ahead and read it because we're kind of short on questions. I have been requesting SSIDs through online maintenance. When I create the enrollment record manually, CalPads automatically creates a demographics record for the student. If the student has non-English primary language, I also add a TBD record at the same time. After Tom's gets the next import from CalPads, will the student be able to take part in the LPAC test? Or does it require the student to have a complete SINF record, meaning all the required fields have to populate to test?
No, you should be able to test them with just that stub SINF record. I mean, we recommend that you complete it because there are some elements, specifically like the address and things like that are used for the student score reports. But they will still be eligible to test. It's just important that you get it updated prior to the completion of testing.
And says, we have a special ed student who should have an IFEP as the English language acquisition status, but it is showing an EL. Is this something we would contact ETS about or CSIS? The EL coordinator says the student took the LPAC, labeled EL, then IFEP. The student is in SPED. Could be why they didn't pass the initial LPAC and it was fixed afterwards, but maybe not.
This could be the sequencing thing.
Yeah, it could be the sequencing thing, but just the fact that you said they're SPED, this might be an alternate assessment issue. So, and I'd have to take a look at the specific SSID to give you an answer on this one.
Okay.
And
if you want,
I have the sequencing bug up on my screen, 6127.
And this usually happens with students that have been around since, 2014, 2013. That's when the sequencing gets out of whack.
But if that's the case, they wouldn't have taken the initial LPAC because that didn't start getting administered until 2000.
True.
Catherine says, I have a couple of errors, the IVR 0009. I have verified areas and they should not be showing as they are the student that has the transfer classes and not change schools. It is pulling a 150 and it should not be. Don't we have a bug on that IVR
Yeah.
009?
That's the special characters.
Yeah, but she's,
I put the wrong error code in there. I'm sorry. It is, I have two error codes I'm getting. The IVR is for the special characters on the names.
Which is IVR 0009.
Yeah, I'm getting an error for those. And then the other one that I'm getting is the is for students that have transferred classes. We have them in a different exit code in there that shouldn't be being read, and it's being read as a 150. And that one is SNR, or what is it? Sorry.
It's a GERS.
That's ENR 0027.
oh, I did. I
027.
have seen something similar to that, Charlene. Let's see.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's
Is that it
Catherine.
right there? 6058.
Yeah, it's when they're trying to enroll them and exit them at the same time.
Well, which is not really a bug. We haven't taken it off this list yet because the flash hasn't gone out. But I was thinking of another one. I thought there was one more that was similar.
But it is an issue with E150 because, you know, yeah, it's always going to happen in these cases because they're submitting, you know, the
Exit and then
right,
enrollment.
because it's not really an exit, it's an enrollment update.
Right.
So they're submitting the subsequent record in the same file.
So it's the split them out is the answer.
A
you're trying to
workaround.
give her. Yeah.
It's not a ideal workaround.
Oh, it's Catherine. Okay, so yeah, there, and then there's this one at 6121. It's kind of similar. It was just one record in the file, but it overlapped. It was a short-term enrollment that overlapped to primary, so that should not be triggering.
Okay, Eva says, thank you, Brandy. Do I create a ticket with CalPADS and ask to forward the email to you?
Yes. Sounds great.
Claudia said I do have a ticket, but when I call LPAC this morning because 2 TBD students are not showing in the testing site, they are corrected in CalPADS. They say to contact CalPADS. Oh, I think you already talked about that.
Yes.
Stephanie says, no Sped redesign?
There is going to be a Sped redesign. We have just decided not to put more on your plates for fall. And so we're pushing it out another year, which is kind of a bummer because this would have, I think it would have helped with a lot of the data issues you guys have with your Sped reports and things like that. But yes, so we're pushing that Sped redesign out one more year just because of everything that happened with the post redesign. We want to be well prepared.
Angela, is there something going on with SCNR uploads today? Last week, my SCNR posted pretty quickly, but today it has been stuck in posting status since about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I've got 2 that are stuck in validating that I've been trying to keep an eye on today. So that's kind of my experience. Some days are better than others. It's not quite nailed down as well as we'd like it to be just yet.
Litania, the MOU for articulated courses states the students must get a B or better to get college credit. However, CalPADS states that students must receive a C or better. Do we report articulated courses on CalPADS or MOU rules?
Well, the requirement really is to capture whether or not the student's going to get college credit. So if your MOU states that the kid doesn't get college credit unless they get a B or better, then they won't get the college credit. So it would be based on your MOU rules.
Hey, Brandy, can you pronounce her name?
Elitania Sanchez.
I had that one week and I couldn't say her name for the life of me, so I apologize.
See what a trip to Puerto Vallarta will do?
Send me so I could say her name, please. I want to go too. I'll just have a language class with Brandy.
Yeah.
Oh, Kathleen's just following up on that error. and it's going to submit a ticket. Brandy says, yay, Brandy. Okay. From Suzanne, I cannot delete an erroneous ELAS record, and because you have told me to just leave it as is, and it is a known issue of incorrect ELAS status start dates. How can the student test if their ELAS status is incorrect? Do you think this known issue will be fixed soon? The erroneous record is from 2010, and I feel bad for the other district who wants me to fix it so they can test their student as EO instead.
So I think I worked on this ticket and I marked it as the out of sequence. And, you know, way back when, though, that was a status that they may have certified. And so that's why we're hesitant to remove historical data, because it was used in certification for somebody at some point, potentially. And Suzanne, you know, we're trying to get the Tom's extract working.
I will say that I've, in going through my email this morning, I've been looking at a lot of the tickets that were assigned to me that were reported where the ELAS was out of whack. And all of them thus far have been corrected in the Tom's export. Mm-hmm. So, but again, it's dependent on, remember, Tom's is only processing that file twice a week now. So I would just check in the next update to see
tomorrow,
if this is still an issue. Yeah.
It was today.
Oh, Monday. Yeah.
It's supposed to be today. And I did check in with Glenn this morning on that extract, and he told me that the same thing, Brandy, that he thought they were all resolved, but that Tom's had not imported the data yet. So maybe while we're on the call, you can check in and see if you get an ETA when they're going to load whatever went over this weekend.
Sure. I will email somebody.
Catherine says, thank you. And do we know why there is an error on punctuation?
Yeah,
I think it's special characters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's simple things, just like tilde is and stuff, you know. So it didn't, legacy, we honored all of that, and we're not in this new system yet. I'm not saying you'll forever have to remove those out of your CSIS and files. It's just temporarily, that's the workaround. It's just to scrub the file. So 6036 is the number.
And that happens in all of the file types?
Yep. Anybody that's got kind of any names or anything like that.
Rebecca says she has large SNR files that are taking hours to post as well.
Yeah, I pulled it up. It looks like we're about 30 jobs in, 27 now since I just refreshed, that are it's SNR in the posting step. Here you are, Rebecca, right there. Wow, yeah, since 8:30 this morning. I'll check in with the dev team after the call and see what's going on. That seems like a long time.
Nancy asks, if a student takes Saturday school to make up an absence, does the original absence still count towards chronic absenteeism?
I think we have that as an FAQ.
Yes, we do.
And the answer is no. Saturday school doesn't count.
Correct. Yeah, it counts to make up ADA, Nancy, but it does not count to make to sort of
correct
discount that day for chronic absenteeism purposes.
We're out of questions again. All right, we go from Barb. Are the ODS reports for end of year still having issues? I've pulled the reports and I'm missing a lot of kiddos. I can see the record on the student file, but the student doesn't show up on the ODS. We have some bugs on some of the ODS reports for end of year.
I would say check later in the week when we run revisions. ODS reports are less reliable than the snapshot reports.
And Angela posted the FAQ.
So Gary Eldrick says that he's got an SCNR file that's still posting since last Thursday, and he put in a ticket this morning. So I grabbed that, Eldrick, and you had 2 job IDs, so I restarted them both. And last time I checked, they were now stuck on validating. So I put you backwards on accident. Wasn't my intention. So that's what the developer told us, is if they are stuck, just start them over again. So I will be notifying him after this call.
Alex says, thank you very much, CalPADS team. Really appreciate you, but I don't envy you. Thanks, Alex. Oh, my Alexa just talked to me. Claudia says, if no more questions, could I please review your question from 326? I was not in my office at the time we talked about it. Okay, all right. I do have it. Okay, so for information, I do have a ticket, but when I called UPAC this morning, because 2 TBD students are not showing in the testing site, they are correct in CalPADS. They said to contact CalPADS. The date for the TBDs entered was 5/16 and 5/17. So it seems like they should have been in
But
Mondays.
we did have a problem, and so Brandy said that of the ones that she's checked, they are now showing up, and so maybe it's just a timing thing.
Yeah, I think it might be a timing thing.
But
But
we unstuck those TBDs because it was a problem, but we think we have some of them taken care of, or all of them taken care of.
Oh boy. Like Tanya, sorry, I'm just as bad as Martha. Is there an order we should upload the EOY files?
Brandy gave us an example or a suggestion of the order that you should be working on EOY. That may change based on when we open up what's functioning well and what's not functioning well. So if you go by the order of the submission, that tells you then the files that you should be sending up. But I think this is also documented in our data population training, what files go up, because some have dependencies. But with the redesign, the file dependencies kind of have gone away, but we still advise, for example, in EOY 3, that the sync, the SIRS, and the SOF, those are 3 files for the incident data. And it's best that you do the sync first, then the SIRS, and then the SOFT. You don't have to, but you get errors later on that you have to fix if you don't eventually send up all 3. So I would rather, because there's a lot of files, I would rather you maybe check the data population. And with EOY 1, it has to do with the course data, right? So you got to make sure that you have the staff data if you're going to report that seed on a course section. And so staff data first, then the course section completion, and then the student course completion. That's the order of those. But like I said, with redesign, it really doesn't matter the order anymore.
Chuck has a comment. I wish the CalPADS programmers were as good as the support team. And being on the support team, I appreciate your comment, but the programmers are pretty sharp. Just a lot of things to take into account. From Colleen, Angela, did my ticket get forwarded to you regarding the non-enrolled student on our TOMS list? I haven't heard from our testing coordinator today, but as of Friday, she was still on our LPAC list.
It might have, Colleen, but I probably would have just turned around and assigned it to CDE level 2. CSIS doesn't have any visibility to anything TOMS related, and so there's not a whole lot of support we can provide on that. So it might be in Brandy and Ananya's queue.
From Stephanie, are there going to be trainings for end of year this year? I think
Yes.
So pretty soon.
Yes, there will be. We're working on the schedule. We're trying to get something out, not next, I don't know, maybe next week.
I thought next week. Yeah, I thought that's what
Yeah.
you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I have the draft schedule and I need to finalize it. So yes, we are going to do training. But again, I'll reiterate that not a whole lot changed this year. So if you're really anxious, you could still watch last year's videos and get the bulk of information that you need to know about EOY.
And it's up on the screen for you folks, how you can get to it.
I'll put a link.
If you go to the playlist, I think if you go to the playlist, you'll see, if you scroll, you'll see one for end of year.
Reports.
Data population, and then reporting and certification. Right
There
there.
it is
There.
down here.
Right
So
there.
there's data population, then the row below it is the reports and certification. How do you actually go through the submission? So to answer Ann's question, what we need to know is how to navigate the bugs so that we can submit EOY files as effectively as possible. Unfortunately, we may not know all of the bugs, so I
No.
may not have the whole story, especially if we're going to start training next week. So we'll do the best that we can. We're hoping that with what we do tell you of what's working, what's not working, that everybody has a different situation, and what works well for one person isn't an acceptable workaround for somebody else. So what we try to tell you is, you know, things that are working well, and then based on that, you guys figure out with everything that's going on. Let's say you have a person, your discipline person is going to be leaving in 2 weeks. So it's really important that maybe you start working on discipline so you can get their feedback. And while there may be some defects, hopefully it won't be enough to stop you, but you know, that may be a reason why you need to focus on that. So everybody's got a different scenario. So it's really hard, and for us to train to that. As we do uncover defects, and if there are workarounds, we will gladly share that with you, but it's hard to do that in training. I mean, train just to that makes it difficult.
Wendy asks, when will the new file 3 part take place?
Is that Sped?
Sped redesign.
Hmm.
22,
off.
23.
It's put off for a year.
Angela posted the link to the playlist. Stephanie says, do we know the deadline for the Asvab submission for this year?
It was in the quarterly updates. I think it's June 30th.
Is that still voluntary, Asvab?
Yep. Yeah, it's further down. Like, it's in the general. There it is right there.
June 30th. So Wendy followed up and said for that file 3 part for the S in our new
The
file.
flash that's
Oh,
being worked on.
that.
Yeah, I don't should have gone out by now, but I think we were still trying to get everybody on the same page on what it's actually doing.
I think we had the Sped was the last one that we had to confirm how it's behaving.
Gary and Alex, I don't know if you were paying attention to my screen. But remember we were talking about on the view submission status, sometimes it would revert back.
Yes,
It refreshes.
It's refreshing on its own. I'm
Yeah.
not even touching it. So
that's
something
what I've seen
changed.
too.
Every
Yeah.
30 seconds. It's
So you got to time it just right if you're
gotta be
changing
quick.
the filters.
Mhm.
And I think that only affects
Oh.
the state users, right?
Probably.
Yeah, because we can put in any reporting LEA, and when we're helping you guys and troubleshooting and stuff, we'll put in an LEA, go ahead, hit apply filter, and we look back up and it's back to, it always defaults to ABC Unified just because that's the first one on the list. So I was real tickled pink the other day because I actually had to call a ticket from ABC Unified and I didn't have to worry about it. Okay, so from Lou, what would cause a batch file to have a status of failed?
Nothing good. Usually it's malformed or you have extra spaces in there somewhere. So make sure you're extracting from your SIS and not opening it or anything like that.
So I came across one. I don't know how Paul figured it out, but somewhere, even though it said failed, there was an error that got triggered, and that they They didn't have the rights to submit the file, the free reduced, it was the SPRG. And then when I looked at it, the person was set up at a school level rather than the LEA level. It was a single school LEA, a charter. And when we put that person back at the LEA level, I think then they were successful. They got a different kind of error, but they didn't get failed anymore. So Lou, you should send in a ticket.
There's a couple of different, well, a lot of things probably that can happen. I had one that was a little bit different, was failed. And they were uploading like they did from the Excel spreadsheet or the template. But so then I downloaded it in a CSV and brought it up in Notepad so I could see the text. And they had a bazillion commas at the end of the file. So something funky happened in to the template. So sometimes if you can do that, take it and put it in Notepad, save it as a CSV text and then open it in a Notepad and see if there's anything that looks out of the ordinary. Sometimes Excel does funny things sometimes.
Yeah, I had one where the vendor, for all the fields that were blank, put the word null, N-U-L-L. And CALPADS did not like that. It spat it back out.
But it looks like Lou's was just because she had a larger SIMP file that went up.
We do have that bug that where it fails, it doesn't give you any kind of details on why.
For all file types?
Pretty much, yep.
I haven't seen a lot of that though. Have you guys?
Yeah, I have. I mean, a few, not a lot, but
there.
For every failed status, there's no description.
Nothing.
So should Lou try to split the file up maybe if it's too big? Is that one of your theories?
Do it by school?
What I've done, because it varies for the ones that I've seen that are failed, just mine, the one I got recently was just because course name had quotations in the name. And they removed the quotes and then it was good to go. So I think maybe just sending in a ticket with the job ID and then we can look in the admin tool and figure out which record's causing the failed status.
Yeah. They're kind of fun. Being analysts, that's a kind of fun thing I like to do.
But I'm sending you those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shouldn't have said that, Gary.
Okay. We had from Suzanne, thank you for your explanations, Martha and Brandy. So if Tom's is showing incorrectly, next update. I think this is an old SIMP data from 2010. Nothing shows in our CIS. Not sure how I even got there. Bad data migration or a mid.
Hoping that it should be corrected already, but
yeah. So by the next update, if it's still not, let us know.
Okay, so Angela says she has seen the screen refreshing on its own today too. So that's going to be a tough one to. We write it up. It's a defect.
okay, now I'm confused. So FYI, I just got an email from Tom's and they're saying that the data will be in Tom's on Wednesday and Friday mornings. I know. I'm confused. So because I think
they're going to update their website.
I know that. Right. Okay. Somebody copy and paste that URL into the chat so I can email her real quickly and say, yeah, this is not what the website says. Gracias. All right.
Suzanne says, sorry, I feel that all of these defects and workarounds are just waiting till things get fixed is stressful. I can't help wanting to fix something right away, especially if it's affecting a student's educational experience. Just saying.
Yeah, we
feel the same way,
yeah,
Sue-Ann.
It's very stressful.
Oh, and Lou does say that we're able to submit a smaller SINF, but not the larger one.
Straight text file from Aries. So just a ticket with the job ID and either Alex or Gary, not me, will grab it. So Eldrick noticed that his screen's been refreshing since last week. I'm guessing it went in on Wednesday because that's when the analysts and I started saying, what is happening? How come I can't filter?
So do we write a bug on that, Angela, or
I think it's probably
tell?
by design, because especially with the way OM works now, that, you know, they make a change, it says it's posted successfully, which isn't a true statement, right? It just means it's posted to the queue. You know, it's not, hasn't actually processed yet. And then it links you to this screen. And so rather than having to sit there and refresh it, they probably thought it was an enhancement to have it do it on its own. So we'll figure something out as state users. If it gets too frustrating for us, we can ask them to dial it back a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Colleen posted the update schedule. It's Colleen.
Is that different than what I had up?
I did see yours, Angela.
Same. Okay.
Sabrina says, I have 3 new TBDs I manually entered into CalPADS. These students were to take the initial LPAC. I'm receiving a CELA 255. My file includes the same information in CalPADS. What am I missing?
Can't remember what that error is off the top of my head. You guys?
255.
The valid combo, we have a bug on that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, incorrectly for the valid combo. But she doesn't, she's just doing a TBD though.
And I think I've seen it like that it triggers. Yeah, it says invalid change in ELAS status. So it's just triggering, even though it's just a TBD and it should, it's still triggering that 255.
Because there is a valid code combo for blank and TBD, but maybe it's not recognizing that.
Most people are able to get their TBDs in though, so I'm suspicious on this one.
Well, the only potential is that they may have a prior status in there. So like they could have an EL record, for example. Yeah, so I don't know the case in this one.
We need a ticket with SSIDs.
And job ID.
And we have a thumbs up from Lou, and we are at 3:59. So what do you guys say? Call it?
Cut it. Yeah, call it.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brandy. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back on Wednesday, 3 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.